Hello, beautiful people. This is Logan from Audioholics Unite, and today we are going to be listening to Marilyn Manson's new album, We Are Chaos. And speaking of people who are chaotic and probably retarded, say hi, Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. I am not excited for this at all. I am not excited to listen to Marilyn Manson.
I'm not excited for this at all. I'm Dad.
You forgot the I'm not excited to listen to Marilyn Manson part.
Eat a dick.
You
Anyway,
failed. You failed at being a dad.
yeah, well, I think I failed at being a dad when I drowned my firstborn son, but, we don't have to talk about that. Anyway, so, Marilyn Manson. We both have very uninformed opinions of this artist. I guess
I mean,
he's,
I've heard more than one album. I've heard 3, 4 albums by
yeah,
Marilyn Manson.
yeah, so I guess I guess you know more about them than I do. Well, we'll get into our experience or lack thereof with Marilyn Manson when the album goes on. But so, forewarning, I was told that this was supposed to be a feel good album. And this was actually our second take. There was a technical glitch in the first one. And I listened to about a minute or so of the first track on the album. What the fuck are they smoking? This is not a feel good album. Maybe it's a little less heavy than earlier Manson albums, but hardly a feel good album. Jesus Christ, how pretentious can Manson's fan base be? Jesus. I don't know.
I mean,
Um,
I could barely hear it because like the audio problem
yeah,
was on
that was
my end.
that
So
was the technical issue, but I mean, I would say it's not as heavy as Antichrist Superstar or
I'll have to take your word
what was the
for it.
one that came after that? Was that Mechanical Animals, or am I thinking of a totally
Yeah,
different band?
yeah, it was Mechanical Animals.
Okay, I think I
Yeah, I
always
don't.
get that one.
Antichrist Superstar is like one of his worst albums that I've heard. It
Yeah,
may
that
be
was the
like the
one
worst
that
album I've
I
heard by him.
was. That's the only one I kind of tried to listen to because a lot of people would say it's like his best.
Oh, I have no idea why.
I mean, it was the album that like really put him and industrial rock metal on the map. So
I mean, I'd say he did that with his second album.
I don't know. I mean, like my understanding is like early Manson was kind of schizophrenic, and it took until like Antichrist Superstar to really for him to really find his sound. That's my
I'm not
understanding.
even sure
But
he ever really had a sound. He was a schizophrenic artist throughout his whole career, as far as I know. I mean, I haven't heard every album, but I've heard parts of most of the albums, and they pretty
yeah,
much all sound
and I mean, like
weird.
obviously, I've heard like the classics, Beautiful People, Dope Show, the new shit, the really good covers, and a couple pretty lousy ones. But I went hell. So yeah,
Manson and Rob Zombie did a pretty good cover of Helter Skelter.
uh, I think I listened to that. I can't remember if I liked it or not.
Yeah, it's not amazing. It's definitely not better than the original, but it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are some
Anyway,
good covers of that though.
do you
Pat
want to
Benatar
start the
did a good
album? We can
one.
we can talk a little bit more about
Yeah, yeah,
our
let's
history
do
with
that.
Manson when we start the album.
All right, so if you're ready, I'll go on my preamble. The link to the album, as always, will be in the description. Also, in the description, I've been putting a playlist to other Audioholics Unite episodes. I highly recommend if you like this episode, check out our older ones. We just, what have we done? We just did one with Anthrax. We just uploaded that. We try to get to new albums whenever they come out. So we've done, the things like the new Lamb of God album, the new Killers album. Just anything that's new and kind of piques our interest. Oh, the Haken episode was probably one of the better ones we did, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
that was a really good episode.
Yeah, that was a fun one to do. Even though I didn't really like Virus anyway. Even though I didn't really love Haken or that album, not anything wrong with it. It just wasn't necessarily my thing. I thought it was a fun episode to make. But yeah, so the link to the album will be in the description. I highly recommend using AdBlock for the best viewing experience and the best, syncing experience, syncing the audio with the podcast, video, whatever you want to call this fucking thing. So, without further ado, let's get into it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and go with Red, Black, and Blue.
So, I guess I will start with my personal history with Marilyn Manson. So back in middle school, I started following a podcast called the Drunken Peasants Podcast, and one of the hosts of that podcast, TJ, was a big fan of Marilyn Manson. He actually did a video at one point where he like reviewed all the albums. Um,
This bit is like
and
really quiet. It's a cool like little
um,
opening area, opening thing, but it's cool.
yeah, this is weird. Anyway,
Sounds good through headphones.
so I listened to Portrait of an American Family. What was the next one? Smells Like Something.
Smells like children, I think.
Yeah, and then I listened to Mechanical Animals at some point, and I was kind of a Manson fan back then. I don't know if that's just because I was a fan of the Drunken Peasants, and that's how I got into it, or what, but over time, particularly in high school and like maybe first year of college, I started really disliking Manson. And now I just straight up think that Manson's band is trash.
Why do you think that?
There's a lot of reasons that I think that. A big one is Manson himself. I think he is a absolutely terrible vocalist. I think the instrumentals are subpar, if not terrible. And I think the worst part for me is the songwriting. I just hate his style. And that's not to say that Manson is a unintelligent person or a stupid person or anything like that. He's very, very smart. He probably knows exactly what he's doing. I just don't
What do
get
you
it.
mean by songwriting? You mean like lyrics, or do you mean like?
Composition, melodies,
Yeah.
not a fan.
I mean, this is pretty cool. I mean, like, yeah, like the riffs aren't amazing, but I like this song so far.
It's got the same problem I always have with Manson. There's too much focus on the vocals, and the vocals are not good. My God, this is actually like really terrible. This
I
like
like it.
vocal effect he has on his
He always
voice in
did
the
that
chorus.
though. I mean, like, you love it or you hate
Yeah,
it.
but this one is bad.
You like it or you hate it. I kind of tolerate it. It's not like a great thing, but I. So my experience with Manson actually kind of ties in with him. I was also a fan of Drunken Peasants, Amazing Atheist, TJ. I was really a lot more interested in things like religion than I am now. I mean, it's still a fascinating subject, but I was like one of those. Like I think we were both kind of like one of those like I'm an atheist, so therefore I'm enlightened kind of high schoolers.
Yeah.
And like he said, T.J. Kirk, who was in the Drunken Peasants, was a huge Manson fan ever since they were new. And I got into it with Antichrist Superstar, and I wasn't really a fan of the style either. I didn't necessarily think it was bad. It just seemed like one of those things that just was like, it has its fan base, and I can see why. I can totally understand, like, angry, disenfranchised youth, really getting into this. And honestly, it should have been my market. I was an angry, disenfranchised youth. I still fucking am. But oh my god, what the fuck? 666 sick of you. That's such a terrible lyric.
Yeah, Manson always had like some really cringy
There were
lyrics,
some like
but
his lyrical style, I think, is kind of all over the place. You got like songs like "The Beautiful People," which are really well written, or something like that. And then you have just what was the one off the one album, like one of the worst Manson lyrics. It was like "I'm a fly on a windshield" or something like that.
I will say like this album is really well mixed. Like this is an
Yeah,
audio holic's dream.
yeah,
Like I can really hear a lot of like
yeah. This reminds me
vocal
especially
effects
of
and
like
vocals
Black
around
and
me. Like I
White,
hear one
honestly.
over here, one up here. Like it's really cool.
This reminds me a lot of like
Like do you
classic
hear that
'90s
on the
band.
left side?
Yeah, it's really well mixed.
Or I guess for me it's the left side, but it
Yeah,
might
are
be the
you
right side for
listening?
you.
Are you listening to this in stereo?
I am.
Yeah. All right, we are
Yeah,
on.
and it's really fucking cool.
We are on. We Are Chaos. This is the one single I listened to, and I actually kind of liked it.
That was a really nice transition.
Yeah,
Like it didn't even sound like a song had ended.
yeah. Now I kind of, yeah. Now I kind of understand where the whole feel good album. I mean, I wouldn't. I still wouldn't say it's feel good. The lyrics are still very negative, but yeah, I
Oh,
actually
this
really don't like this.
yeah, I really hate it.
Yeah, like I think I liked it when I first heard it. I don't really know why. What I don't like this. But now going back to what I was saying, I listened to Antichrist Superstar. Wasn't a huge fan of it. Now that I'm a little bit older, I think I want to give Manson another try. Like there are some newer songs, especially that he's put out that are pretty good. One that he showed me, even that even he admits is pretty good, is "We Know Where You Fucking Live." That was a really good song. And there's like even some stuff if you listen to like Beavis and Butthead Radio on Spotify or something like that, you come across shit like Manson. And I'm always a fan of kind of like '90s MTV rock pop things like that,
You
especially
know,
like just shit they played on Beavis and Butthead. But
this really sounds like the Killers.
that might be why I liked it. I was probably like super obsessed with the Killers at the time. Oh wait, no, no, this
Like
was like
it
back when I was
sounds like a
18.
worse version of the Killers
Yeah, I don't
because the
know. I mean,
vocals aren't
like,
as good.
I don't know. I'll say this: it has attribute. I think sonically, it is beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really well mixed. Like
it's
really
really well
impressive.
mixed, and not only that, I think like the actual like structure of it isn't too bad. It incorporates a lot of instruments. I just
I
don't know
really
how I
love
feel about
how
the
the
concept as a whole of this sort of like you know
indie
what? It's
Manson.
like it's like a feel good song, but Manson can't pull that off because like you just have a voice like that, and like it's like you know what I mean? It's like if Elton John tried to do death metal. Like, could he pull it off? I don't know. Maybe on a structural level, but like he just does not have the voice for it.
Yeah, dude, like this, I really love the different layers of voices that they have going on. Like, even in the chorus, you can hear one on the left side, you can hear one over here. Like, it's really
Yeah.
impressive how they were doing that in the mix.
Like I can say
It's not
like
quite like a Beatles mix, but it's really cool,
yeah, like I can
nonetheless.
say like no matter what happens from here on out, I have to automatically give it points just for the mix alone. It's one of the best mixed albums I've heard in a little while, and I listen to a lot of. I'm always a fan of just stereo panning and things like that. Like I listen to a lot of like George Martin and Uh, who was that dude that like produced the Pretty Things and the early Pink Floyd shit like that? Um, I'm always a fan of kind of that like really good stereo mixing, and this has that in spades. Don't Chase the Dead is what we're on now. So, what did you actually? Do you have your computer near you?
I don't.
Oh, um,
Why?
I was gonna look and see who produced. I was hoping you'd look and see who produced this. I can do that real quick. Just I can like just quick go on the iPad and uh, figure that out. Why don't you like kind of stall for time while I do that?
All right. So I think the thing that's interesting about this album is it is such a different sound for Manson. It's almost like I said, if Manson was the Killers. It's a weird alt rock sound that he's going for on this album, and I'm not sure it works. I agree with what Logan was saying. Give it points for the mix and overall production. And honestly, if I'm being honest, this isn't pissing me off as much as some of
Yeah.
the other Manson songs and albums have in the past, particularly Antichrist Superstar,
Oh my god, it was released on
Portrait of
fucking
an American
September 11th.
Family.
I now just read that.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
That's just morbidly obese.
But I
I
think I think the vocals still don't work, and I can see what he was going for. He was trying to like embrace the fact that he does
holy
this like
shit.
whisper shit, and I just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, so according to what I read, Manson produced it himself.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean,
He's a good producer, not a
yeah.
good singer.
And honestly, like,
He should stick to producing.
yeah. I don't know, I don't know, like produce like some of the shit like Puddle of Mud, like make that somewhat usable.
Yeah. I think it's only fair that a band called Puddle of Mud always has a muddy mix.
Oh!
It's only fair.
Yeah, but I like this song a little bit more. I mean,
I think I like this even less than the song before it. I was just saying, I don't know if you were listening. I can see what he was trying to do with these whisper vocals. He was trying to make it
I wouldn't say
like
it's
an
whisper
ASMR sounding album,
Not
if that makes
now.
sense to you. That's clearly what he was going for with like the
No, I
panning
don't think it
whisper
was whisper
vocals
vocals.
and
He's just more melodic. He's not screaming at the top of his lungs.
no, that's
And
his thing. Like he always does the whisper vocals. The beautiful
well,
people.
now I guess he's doing that. But like,
He always did that. That was his style.
well, yeah, he did that before. But I mean, like the beautiful people, the beautiful people. But I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I think this is just a more melodic album, and I can understand why this would piss off a lot of people, especially diehard Manson fans. As
I don't know.
somebody who was
I've
not
read that people
crazy
generally
about
like the
Marilyn
album.
Manson, huh?
I said I've read people generally like the album.
Hmm. I mean,
So
it's an interesting kettle of fish. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. I think this is a positive experience, but I don't know if again, I'm very ignorant when it comes to. I only listened to part of Antichrist Superstar 5 or 6 years ago when I was in high school. I got to like the third track or so, wasn't really interested, and then just shut it off. So that's about the experience, and obviously, the hits that everybody knows.
oh wow, I hate this. We are now on Paint You With My Love, by the way. Oh my. Oh,
Love
stop. I
hurts. Oh
really
my!
don't like that. Oh my god, it does sound like that. Marilyn Manson's ripping off Nazareth.
Fuck you, I love Nazareth.
Would you like Nazareth if Marilyn Manson sang all of the lyrics?
I
Now
mean, the
you're
actual
messing
vocalist from
with
Manson.
a son of a bitch.
I mean, to be fair, the actual vocalist of Nazareth isn't much better.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Now you're messing with a
I don't
son
like.
of a bitch.
I don't know. I always liked Nazareth ever since I was in high school, but I hated the fucking vocalist. But to be fair, I couldn't imagine somebody else doing it. So, like,
Oh my
especially when he
god, this
tried to
is
do like,
terrible.
I like this.
This is so bad. Oh, we're gonna have completely opposite views on this album, aren't we? You're like
It's
having a positive experience, and I think like this could very easily be a 4 out of 10 album if it keeps going like this.
I would say like it's definitely very stylistically different. I don't know. I just like I think maybe it's because like I'm not looking at it. I'm not necessarily comparing it to his other work. If I were to do that, I would definitely give it a 4 out of 10 alongside you. If I was a if I was a lifelong Manson fan and I listened to this, I would be insulted. But
Okay, but even on its own merits, it's
on its
terrible.
own merits, I think it's very good. Like you said, it's sort of like the Killers, and that's a kind of
Yeah, but bad.
the Killers, Arcade Fire, things like that. I think it kind of goes from that same ilk, and it works. I mean, yeah, it's definitely flawed, but it works a lot better than I could have expected it to.
I think this is just misguided. Like, I don't like other Manson
I would
albums,
not
but this
say
is
it's
just a
not
bad
misguided. I
idea.
wouldn't say it's misguided. In fact, I think it knows exactly what it wants to be. Whether you
Okay, but
like
it
that thing,
shouldn't want to be that.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Whether you want it to be that or not, that's subjective, I suppose. But it knows exactly what it wants to be.
Well,
So
that's the definition of misguided.
misguided, I think, would be more so just not having any clue what you're doing.
No, no, like misguided means that you think you know what you're gonna do, but it's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that.
Well, I mean,
Like somebody is misguided if they are trying to become a stripper in a bad part of town or something like that.
I suppose. I think that, I mean, that's up to opinion, and I can definitely, I understand how somebody can absolutely hate this album. And honestly,
Oh.
I probably am not doing a great job at defending it. I can see objectively why this album doesn't work and why a lot of Manson fans, especially, are absolutely going to shit on this album. And
I don't know.
probably
Like I
should
said, people are
shit on this
liking this
album.
album so far, I think.
Even like
Like
the
from what I've
fans or
seen.
just like the critics?
From what I've seen, like the fans and the critics seem to like it.
Hmm. I don't know. It's definitely a very different sound, and I can't say that I hate it. I'm not really like again. I'm not really comparing it. I'm comparing it more to like indie rock. I think that's the direction he's trying to go in, and I would not say that it's the best indie rock album. I wouldn't even say it's an amazing indie rock album. But so far, I would at least give it a good 7.5, 8 out of 10. I would definitely listen to this
We are
again.
now on halfway and one step forward.
I would definitely listen to this album again if
Oh no, I would not. You
I
could
would
not
listen
pay
to
me.
this again.
You could not pay
Just
me
for the
enough
mix
money.
alone, I honestly would want to listen to this without like having to hear you talk over it because I just want to like listen to this with like my good pair of wireless headphones. You know, fuck, I would get a hold of a FLAC file if I can. Like this is so fucking amazingly mixed. And
That's the only
even
positive in my mind, though.
and honestly, even if the mix was the only thing that was good, it would at least get like a 5 out of 10. But
Yeah,
I
like
think
for
that the
me,
music is passable, if not just kind of good on its own merit.
I think the
It's
songs
almost
are
like
terrible. I think the melodies are boring and unmemorable.
it
I think
even
the
kind.
instrumentation is just not fitting to the music. And I think Manson's vocals are terrible. So
I think this is
I'm not
almost
liking
like
this at all.
I would say like this is almost like this song specifically is almost like industrial doom metal.
No. It's not nearly heavy enough to be metal. Maybe like doom electronic music.
I don't know. I kind of like. I don't know. Like, but I'll say this. I don't think I've ever really heard an album quite like this, and I guess I always have. I will admit that I always have a bias towards, like, even if something might not be good, I always give it the benefit of the doubt for at least trying something new. Even if it failed, at least I can say, like, I've never heard this before. I've never heard anything quite like this before, and I will always applaud an artist, whether it turns out good or bad, for trying something new. Because that's really the hardest thing. And, you take a really big gamble sometimes. If it's bad, you know, you're stuck with that reputation. It's the same thing with Saint Anger. Love it or hate it, I have to give them points for trying something new. The problem is that it failed square on its ass.
Yeah, and as far
And
as I'm concerned, this is the same way.
so you would say it is on the level of Saint Anger, or
I would rather listen to Saint Anger.
wow, wow, we could not be more different.
Yeah.
Um, wow, this might be like one of the albums that we've disagreed on the most.
The most, yeah.
I mean, besides
Usually
this,
we're on like the same wavelength about
yeah.
about an
Well, I mean,
album.
apart from the Shags episode, you loved that. You loved
Yeah,
that
it was
album.
my favorite. I gave them
Yeah,
a 9.5 out of 10.
exactly. And I
The
gave
only
it a
reason I took off half a
negative
point is
50.
because it wasn't long enough.
Yeah, it just wasn't. It was just, it was just too mainstream. It should have tried more hard to be avant-garde.
Okay, this is cool. What are we on now? We are on Infinite Darkness.
Like honestly, like just not only production-wise, but just structurally, this is. You know what? I think that I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier. This is an audiophile's wet dream. Just
Yeah.
technically, it is brilliant. Whether you like the music or not, that is very, very subjective, and I can understand why this would split a lot of people. I can understand. I could see a lot of people absolutely hating it, and I could see people liking it even more than I do.
This is the best song so far, for sure.
Yeah,
This is maybe like the only song I would call decent so far.
this is I think I think this is probably the song closest to his original style. Which I mean, I was not a huge fan of his original style in high school. Maybe again, I need to go back and listen to Manson again. Um, I kind of wonder.
It's
We were
very
talking about
spacey.
TJ earlier. I'm gonna look at his channel and see if he actually like said anything about this album.
Does he still make videos? I don't even
Yeah,
know.
he does, but like nobody cares.
Nobody watches them. Poor TJ. I mean, what did he expect? He should never have left the Drunken Peasants. That was the
It's
end of
not
his
even
career.
that. Like the videos that he makes are just like super fucking late. Like he was always lazy, but it didn't necessarily reflect in his videos until like a couple years ago. And I don't know.
Yeah, but at least when he was doing the Drunken Peasants, like, you didn't need to like his channel. You just had to like the podcast. And even towards the end, like, the podcast was great. But, now it's just a giant shit show. Like, they still do it. I don't know if you knew that. They still do it.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
Ben, Billy the Fridge, And it's just not the
Is
same. It's
Paul a part of
not
it
political
anymore?
anymore.
Scotty? I don't know.
No more Scotty. I think Paul's still in it though.
Okay. I mean, Paul was
Either
cool.
way, like it's just not good.
It's
It's
just,
just a shit show.
yeah.
And like okay, so was the Drunken Peasants, but at least the Drunken Peasants, like what made that show
I think
great
they
is
had
it was a shit
chemistry.
show, but yeah, they had chemistry, but also they talked about issues like politics, religion. They did it in a way that was their style. It was a shit show, but they still talked about it. The new thing is just a shit show. It's just a shit post. They never touch on anything
I
of
mean,
note.
like the first time that, I mean, shit, the first time that Paul and Billy the Fridge were on the same show, they had to stop the show short because like they got into like an honest to god fight. So I mean, like that shows the fucking chemistry of the Drunken Peasants now. But going back to this album, I mean, this is a good song. I can't really say what my
This is
favorite
definitely the
song.
best song so far.
I can't really say. This looks like a pretty short. We're almost done with it. This
Yeah,
is a
this
short
album is
album.
only. We're so used to like prog albums now.
42 minute. This is a 42-minute album, and it like goes by so quickly.
Which is a good thing because I don't like it. That I did like that song though.
Yeah,
And by the way, we are now on Perfume.
Perfume.
What the fuck is this? Say 10. Say 10, motherfucker. Say 10
Yeah.
one more time. Why does he say it like say 10?
Well, there's like honestly, I think there was actually an album called Say 10,
Oh. That's terrible.
and it was like
This
spelled like
is
SAY number 10.
this is another song that I don't mind as much, honestly.
I kind of
I don't
like
know if
it.
the album is getting better or if I'm just like numb to its bullshit.
Again, I think you need to alter your expectations. You're expecting, I think you're expecting like Antichrist Superstar or Mechanical Animals. It's not that, and it's not trying to be that, and it shouldn't be that
But
because
I don't like
if
those
you want,
albums.
yeah, if you wanted to listen to Antichrist Superstar, it's still in print. Go on Spotify,
But
listen to it.
I don't though, because I don't like those albums.
I just
I don't
think this is a
understand why
very
he didn't
unique.
just
I
continue
just think this is a
the
very
last album
unique.
style.
I think. Well, I haven't listened to the last album, so what was that? Pale Emperor.
No, it was fuck, what was the name of that album?
Uh,
Heaven Upside Down.
yeah, I haven't listened to that one, but
Better than this.
I'll have to give it a chance. But I like this sort of. I mean, like, look, like Marilyn Manson wasn't even like, he was an album reviewer. He has a wide range of musical influences, and he always has had those. And he's always kind of like, especially like, with new wave. Like, what was his first major cover? "Sweet Dreams" by the Eurythmics, a British new wave dance pop band. So it does not surprise me
By the
that,
way, very underrated.
yeah, I think everybody knows "Sweet Dreams," but
Yeah, but like nobody else know or sorry, nobody knows any other song by
I
them.
mean, I think it made me listen to a Eurythmics album, and I actually usually like British dance. I usually like new wave music better than you do, and I couldn't really get into it.
Yeah, I know, and I don't get that because
I,
I
I,
loved
I'll
the
need
album and I
I'll need
usually
to give it
don't like
another
British
chance
pop.
because that's like if anybody should be the target audience for the Eurythmics, it would be me. But
Do you like Aha? Aha is another one of those bands that like I kind of like outside of the hit.
I haven't really listened to much outside of the hit, but I've heard that it's interesting. Flock of Seagulls is really good. No, not Wall of Voodoo. What was the turning Japanese band?
I have no idea.
The Vapors. We are
We are
on.
now on Keep My Head Together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I, this album is getting heavier. Like, there's more and more
Yeah.
guitar in every song, which
But
is
I
an
think it's
interesting
kind
thing.
of.
I would assume he did that on purpose.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I think that the Killers reference or the Killers influence, I think, is indirect. I don't think he was directly influenced by the Killers, but I think that the Killers and this album have the same root influence, which is new wave 80s British MTV dance pop. And
Yeah, I don't like
I
this
guess,
as much, but it's
I guess
better
you,
than the first half of the album.
I guess whether you like this album depends on whether you like shit like, the Eurythmics or maybe even like Prince to some degree or Pet Shop Boys in excess.
Don't you hate Prince?
Prince was probably a bad example, and I don't hate Prince. I wouldn't call myself a huge fan of his. Hate is a very strong word that I don't think should be applied to somebody like that.
Yeah, I could never hate Prince. He's not really my thing, but I enjoy a lot of his music.
Yeah, same here.
Bowie
Like, I
is
mean,
the same thing.
like how can you, how can you not jam to Purple Rain or Little Red
Exactly.
Corvette or Dirty Mind or something like that? I'll fucking listen to Dirty Mind right fucking now.
Was Prince the one who did the changes song, or was
Bowie.
that was Bowie? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I always get the two confused in my head for some reason, Bowie and
Yeah.
Prince. Maybe it's because they died around like similar times.
That's true. I mean, like, they all kind of, like, Chris Cornell, Lemmy, I mean, 2016, 27. No, Prince didn't die in 2016, did he?
Chris Cornell? I don't
No,
remember.
Prince. Or
Prince?
the artist
Oh, I don't
formerly
know.
known as Prince.
Yeah, I had no idea when he died, but it was around the
Uh,
same time as Bowie, right? I feel like it
Alexa,
was.
when did Prince die? It was 2016, okay. Must have been
There
Chris
you go.
Cornell that died in 2017, because I feel like I remember, like, they didn't die. Like, there was, like, one really big death at the beginning of 2017, and I can't remember what it was. I mean, like,
I am
it was Michael,
enjoying this
Carrie
album
Fisher,
more as
Gene
it goes
Wilder.
on.
Huh?
I said I am enjoying this album more as it goes on, weirdly enough.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and there are, I wouldn't say there's flaws, but I think whether you like this album or not really comes down to just musical preference. I don't think there's anything objectively wrong with this album that I can think
I think there's plenty objectively wrong with at least the first half, but the second half so far is remedying a lot of my problems with the first half.
I mean, I don't know, like, just, like, it's kind of like the same thing with, like, Metallica.
We're now
like,
on Solve Coagula.
it's kind of like the same thing with Metallica. Like, later on they got less heavy, or at least heavy in a different direction. And I think you can like one without the other. How do I put? I don't know. I just think that an artist should at least get points for attempting to change their sound. And for Marilyn Manson, who's, as far as I'm aware, has been more or less doing the same thing for 20 years, any kind of deviation from the norm, I think, is welcomed. Again, I'm speaking out of ignorance. Marilyn Manson fans, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Maybe he's a very diverse musician, but a lot of the songs that I've heard sound similar.
I mean, and this just sounds like the Dope Show almost. Or it did. Now it doesn't.
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
mean,
I can't hate this
so
album. I
I
like the
think
idea of it.
I think we're on the second to last track, and I think it's about time that I can call it and say I'm probably gonna give this one a 5 out of 10, straight down the middle.
I'm not actually going to call it. I'm not going to call it until the very end because this is a very interesting album that I just can't call until at least like the last track, at least until I get an idea of the last track. Because
I mean, I think no matter what the last track is, it's not gonna change my mind.
um, so right now I'm hovering between a 7.5 and maybe an 8.5. I don't think it could ever get to a 9. I think that well, I don't know. Saying that though, I think if I were to listen to the album again, I think it could potentially get better. It could potentially get worse. I think this is an album that I'm very conflicted on because on one hand, I like what he attempted to do, and I've said that a million times, and I'll just conclude. I'll save like further comments on the overall album to the end, but I'm very mixed on it. I think that like I think if I had to rate it objectively, I don't even think I could. I don't think I could rate this objectively because this album solely depends on your taste in music. If you like this kind of music, then like a more kind of like indie rock sound, great, this album is for you. If you like classic Marilyn Manson or heavier music in general, don't listen to it. Just don't. It's not. This album is not for you. This album is not for the diehard Manson fans, and maybe that's a point against it. It probably is. Like, if you're going to make an album that the hardcore fans might or might not enjoy, then again, I guess they are enjoying it. So I don't know. Maybe they're more diverse than I thought, more diverse opinions than I thought. But I don't know. It's a very, I think it will come down to being the most polarizing album in his discography.
This song is downright bizarre. I hear like a lot
Yeah.
of country influence in it, as well as like the like electronic stuff we've heard throughout the rest of the album, and even like some heavier aspects. Oh wow, this is just straight up an acoustic guitar. Is this gonna be a country song?
No, it's not.
The
If
last
it's a,
song was sounding pretty country, so you know.
if it's no, if it's gonna be a country song,
Well, he's using a country twang.
wait. Regardless, this might be awesome. Wait, I don't know.
What is this? This
I'm
is
kind of,
just
you know what? I'm glad that I waited to the end because this has the potential to affect my score if it's good or bad.
I think the vocal effect is ruining it. When
It's
you
not the
have like
vocal
a
effect.
stripped down acoustic guitar, you can't have like this weird electronic vocal effect over it. It just sounds like conflicting sounds. The idea when you have a stripped down acoustic thing is that it's human and natural, and then
I
when you have
mean,
this really unnatural aspect to it, it clashes.
I don't know. Like, I think,
Well,
like,
now he's adding like electronic elements. It sounds a little better.
I think that I go to like Ordinary Man. Like, Ordinary Man used a lot of vocal effects as well. Um, or Ordinary
Well,
Man.
it used auto-tune.
Auto tune combined with like audio effects. Black Sabbath, Ozzy is
Yeah,
just
but this
using
is
vocal
more
effects
like
for like
distortion for a voice or something
yeah.
along those lines. It's kind of different, I think.
Or you know what
Also,
it
the
reminds me
acoustic
of?
riff that he's playing here is really just generic and boring.
No, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me a lot of "Blow Up the Outside World" by Soundgarden. Like another song that used a lot of distortion and vocal effects, kind of like ramped up from being kind of softer to heavier. I think I look at it in that light, and it is definitely not as good as Blow Up the Outside, but I don't know. I think I don't really like this song. I think this will affect my rating. So, tentatively speaking, I will give it a 7.5 out of 10. I believe that the structure and the overall idea of it is something that I would like him to explore if his fan base continues to allow it. Um, I would like to see this style kind of expanded upon, but just refined and done better. I think this has the potential to work. It is very much in its infancy, though, and I think we need maybe another album of this in order to really make a call on whether this is a lasting style for Marilyn Manson. I, I, I think I like what I listened to so far, and I'm happy that I listened to it, and I would definitely listen to it again, if for no other reason than the mix. Just to hear, like for example, like there's like a Dream Theater album that I purely want to listen to just because it was mixed in 7.1 surround sound. I don't even know if the album is good or not, and I don't love Dream Theater, but I'm going to listen to that fucking album at some point. I'm pretty sure it's the self-titled one, but
It is, yeah.
um, that being said, I'll take back what I said. There are objective flaws with this album, and I think the biggest one being that he tried something new and it isn't properly refined. I think I would have. I think I would release another album, and maybe he will in 2 or 3 years, something like that. Watch this video age like milk when it turns out 20 years later he still hasn't released an album. But I would like to see the style expanded upon.
That was a really cool ending. I will give it that.
It's
With all of the
interesting.
elements added together, that was really an
Yeah.
interesting ending. But I have to say, that was probably the only interesting moment on the entire album for me. I found the album to be boring. I found it to be unmemorable. I think a lot of it was poorly written. I really don't like the electronic aspect. Maybe that's just my personal tastes. I don't really like electronic music, and I don't really like it in most other genres. I really don't like it in rock. I think it really just
Like,
doesn't belong in rock
that
music.
makes no
But
sense. Like, Korn, Rob Zombie, aren't those like some of your favorite bands?
those bands are not electronic bands. Like there's no electronic drum beats, there's no electronic uh
Korn is like almost
dubstep
strictly
shit. There's not. No, they're
Have you
not.
fucking
Not their
heard?
early stuff. Like
Have you heard
maybe
Freak on a Leash?
there's nothing electronic in that song. That's a guitar.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually a really cool
No,
guitar tone then.
until they started doing shit with Skrillex, they stayed away from. And for the record, I hate that album, so at least I'm consistent. No, but I just don't think it belongs. There's some other bands that have tried to do something similar to this, like having an electronic
Nine Inch
aspect to
Nails, do
metal
you like
music.
them?
No,
Oh,
I don't like Nine Inch Nails.
I don't love Nine Inch Nails, but I like their first album that I heard. I can't remember what it's called, but
There's
their
also a band called like Youngblood, and there's some modern bands that are
I have
trying to
heard of
do
them. But
electronic
what was the
music and
one where
metal, but
Prodigy or Periphery, something like that? Periphery, I
Prodigy,
think. Prodigy.
the Prodigy, the guy who the lead singer died, yeah, that was the Prodigy.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of had like sort of like like sort of like
Yeah,
rock mixed with
it was an
techno. I kind of
electronic
liked
thing.
that.
I
It's
think the
definitely
only
an
exception
interesting.
I've ever found to that rule for me is Blue Stolly, which has a lot of electronic
That's
influence.
true.
I
This is
love
like
Blue
a totally
Stolly.
different thing to Blue Stolly, though.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like in general, I don't think electronic and like rock and metal mesh very well, or at the very least, it's hard to make them mesh well, and it's very easy to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I think Manson really fucked it up on this album. And back to what I was saying about Manson's vocals, I think that whatever effect he used on his voice, that was a bad idea.
He
I
always
don't
used
like it
that
at
effect,
all.
though.
Yeah, but it's a different effect on this album. Like it's not the same thing he always used. It's something very unique to this record. And also
It
he used like
sounds.
this weird like like phaser almost like throughout the album when he would be singing like this effect would cut off
Yeah.
his voice and make it
Like it's
staccato
like
like
I don't know. It just to me like
and I
the
didn't like that either.
like to me it kind of just sounds like like hey you, what do you see? Kind of like the fuzz distortion. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's a different effect. Maybe if
Okay.
you like listen to other Manson closer
I,
and
I
compared,
will
you'd
do
see
that.
that.
I will
But
definitely do that. In fact,
um,
I will listen. I'm not going to listen to a full Manson album because it's getting late.
but yeah. Let me finish out my thoughts then.
Yeah,
So
your thoughts are
where was I?
garbage.
Right, vocals didn't like. I think the lyrics from I didn't read the lyrics on Genius,
Yeah.
but from what I could
And
tell, they
by the
were
way, there's
mostly
probably
okay.
some. And by the way,
There was
there's
some
probably
cringe, but
yeah. By the way, there's probably some deep theological like
probably.
concept behind this, as there are with a lot of Manson albums.
Probably,
I didn't
but
read it.
I didn't get
I
anything
didn't
from it.
get it,
It
and honestly, you're better off enjoying. You're better enjoying Manson if you just
yeah.
pay attention to that shit.
And I think there was some really, like I'll use that word again, misguided things about this album. Like on that last song, it was an interesting
Yeah,
idea, but it didn't work, and they should have figured that out at the demo stage. Like there was a lot of that, especially on the first half of this album. That's just you should have listened to this and realized it was terrible before you put it out. I will say though, now that I've gotten through a lot of my negatives, that the second half of the album, with the exception to the last song, is a lot better than the first half. Still, it's not great. So I think overall my score is going to be a 5.5. I'm going to ramp it up half a point from what I said earlier. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I think you kind of convinced me that this album could potentially get better on repeat listens.
yeah, and
If it does, like even if this album gets better, I don't think it's going to go above a 7.
yeah. I think the highest this could possibly go for me is maybe an 8.5 or a 9.
I
Maybe
don't
an
know, but this
8.5.
album in particular, like I know I said I
I
don't want to
feel
listen to it
uncomfortable.
again, but I think I will.
Feel uncomfortable giving this a 9, but it's possible. Uh,
Honestly, I feel uncomfortable giving this particular album any score because especially with Manson albums, the first time you hear it, you're not going to pick up on a lot of stuff.
yeah.
But like I really did not enjoy my time with this album. I
This is
thought it
what
was
I
largely
see.
boring and unmemorable and
I
misguided.
I take your essential framework of like, okay, okay, I'll admit it was pretty misguided, but I more look at it as like you look at it as this was misguided to a point where it should have just been scrapped entirely. I look
Yeah,
at
or at least it should have been very much altered.
Yeah, that's what I
inexplicably.
say. I think you could have like, okay, take this concept and figure out how to make it better. Because as it is on its own, I think that it was a good idea, but maybe not executed as well as it could have been. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to fail a little bit before you can try. And I am optimistic. If Manson were to continue in this direction, I am optimistic for future releases.
And the other reason why I give this a little bit of a higher score than I was saying earlier is because there are slivers of good music in here. There are sections of multiple songs that really kind of I wish I had more of this on the album. That's what I thought
Yeah,
multiple times during the second half of this album. And even on the last song, I thought like the first half of that song
yeah,
was terrible, but once they started adding in the more electronic stuff, and then at the
yeah.
end,
I
with
think
all of the stuff
ultimately,
added together, like where was this the rest of the album?
it works well as a closer.
Yeah, mostly because that ending was so good.
Yeah,
But
and it kind of like builds up, you know.
this album is just such a beast. It's so weird. I
Yeah,
did not expect this album to be as weird as it was.
this has been one of the more interesting albums that we have covered on
For sure.
this show. I think, like, you know, with some exceptions, I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to think of the album. At least, like, by the halfway point, I can kind of visualize, like, okay, it's going to be, maybe it'll probably be like an 8 out of 10, or it'll be, somewhere along the lines of like a 6 out of 10. This could go anywhere from a 7 to a 9. It is such a weird thing. Except for that one, I can't remember which one it was, but there was like an album that I just flat out refused to rate, I think earlier on,
I don't remember.
because I just was not in the right headspace. I think it might have been like the Dream Theater album, like Awake or something like that. I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember that, but I'm not gonna put it past you. No, I don't know, man. Like it could be just a mixture of me not liking Manson in general, me not liking the style that Manson chose, given that I already don't like Manson, and it could also just be the fact that the album sucks. I don't know, but either way, I didn't enjoy my time with it.
I mean, like, I will definitely listen to this. It has earned a second listen at very least in my book.
Yeah, and I'm gonna listen to it again too, only because, like you said, it could get better on a second listen.
Yeah,
But
and it could get worse, and I'm prepared for that.
yeah,
But
that's what I was gonna say. Like, it could also get a lot worse, and I think it probably will for me.
me personally, I'm leaning more optimistic. But again, it could go either way.
Yeah, I like how we actually have different opinions this time.
Yeah, I know. I know these are like the more interesting episodes, I think. But then, like, you have like the episodes where we both fanboy. Like it's good chemistry.
Yeah,
So that's all I really have to say about the album.
I think the only thing I would add is that I don't understand why people are coming over this album. Even if you thought the album was good and you liked it, is it really a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 album? Come on. What?
9 out of 10
What?
could potentially be 10 out of 10. Fuck no.
Yeah, like you said it wouldn't go above a 9, right? Like you
It would
agree with
not
me.
go above a
Even
9.
if it was great, it's not that
Even if
great.
it was as, even if I liked it as much as I possibly could like it, it will not go above a 9. And honestly, I feel uncomfortable even saying that. But that being said, this album does have merit. I don't know. Like, have you read the reviews?
I
Maybe
haven't read them, but I've looked at some scores and I just don't get it. People really like this album.
I don't know. Does Metacritic do music albums? I think they do.
Yeah, do you want me to
Uh,
look real quick and
yeah,
see
look at
if
the
Pitchfork
Metacritic
did an
score
album
so
review?
far, and like keep in mind though that like whenever an album first comes out, there's usually like a spike. Like I find like that just happens with media in general. Whenever something first comes out, there's a giant spike. Like the Emoji Movie, I remember being like everybody like shits on it now. When it first came out, IMDb was giving it like a 7 out of 10, I think, which is like way
Um,
better than it deserves. Um, I mean, like, I don't know. I would say, like, take whatever review there is with a grain of salt, but, you know,
yeah, so far the Metacritic score is 8.5 for users and 80 for reviewers.
for
There's 9
critics,
reviews being tallied.
9 reviews. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like,
And yeah, NME gave it a 100,
yeah.
Sputnik gave it 94, Consequence of Sound gave it 91. Like, where are these fucking
Yeah.
scores coming from,
I think
people?
we
This
need
it's
to
not
hold
that
out.
good.
If you have 9 reviews, I think we need to wait for more publications to get to it.
Rolling Stones and Independent and The Clash are the only ones that gave it like anything less than an 80.
Well, it
Everything
pissed off
else
the.
was like super
Well, you know what?
positive.
It pissed off the Rolling Stones. That already gets half a point. 8 out of 10. Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck the Rolling Stones. No Pitchfork review, unfortunately,
Yeah,
but they reviewed the last album.
I was looking for some Pitchfork while the album was going, but
It
now nothing.
sucks.
Yeah,
It sucks that they didn't review it yet.
yeah,
They probably will, though. And if they do, we need to talk about it in the next episode.
yeah. It's interesting. I was
Because the
like
next
looking for
episode is
that.
going to be Striper, right? We're going to upload that next.
Yeah, we're gonna upload that in a little bit if they have a review out by then. But you know, it's interesting. I there wasn't that, but there was somehow in the search results I came across "Fear of Music" by Talking Heads, which just happens to be one of my favorite albums. And Pitchfork gave it a perfect 10, so now it sucks.
You hate it now.
I hate it now. Worst album.
What did they give the last album we did? The Pretty Things.
I don't think the last
I
album
don't
we
know, we
did
can
was
talk about this off air. We should probably end the show.
yeah. All right.
Well, it's been fun, peeps. Actually, it really wasn't, but like it was fun shitting on it.
All right. I mean, it was fun apart from hearing your wrong and biased opinion, but you know, we can agree to disagree that your opinion is wrong and invalid. Anyway, goodbye,
We can
everyone.
agree to agree that you suck.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree that you're, you know,
No,
poopy.
you.
Bye.
Bye bye.